We were watching the 2024 Ballon d'Or and it just hit us. Manchester City has a problem. If you've been watching this season, you already know Manchester City has a problem. But what is it? Well, let's just jump into it. Consider subscribing to our channel. It's free and helps us a ton. Thanks. If you just look at the raw stats, you'll be hard pressed to see what we were talking about. Manchester City has begun the season on the front foot. On the surface, City is off to the races in the most emphatic fashion possible. They began the season by winning the Community Shield against their crosstown rivals Manchester United. Currently sitting at the top of the table, still unbeaten, sit on the third position of the revamped Champions League stage. Still unbeaten, of course, though Tottenham did knock City out of the Carabao Cup, handing them their first loss of the season. Erling Haaland sits at the top of the scoring charts in the Premier League with 11 goals already and with further 3 goals in the Champions League. He's in hot form. Overall, City looks great on paper, right? Well, yes and no. Manchester City stats look great, but you can see that the performances on the field have been laboured, to say the least. Despite winning most of their matches, Manchester City have not looked comfortable, especially in recent weeks. And all of it can be traced back to one moment. Yes, we are talking about Rodri, or more precisely, the injury to Rodri and how it's affecting and can further affect Manchester City through this season. Now, we don't want to say that Manchester City is overly dependent on Rodri or that City cannot win games, titles and tournaments without Rodri. I mean, Rodri has hardly played this season. City started the season without him. He came back, got injured, and now City are again without him. And through all that, City have continued winning majority of their games. But that doesn't mean Rodri's absence isn't a problem. Why is that? First off, because he is the best defensive midfielder in the world right now. For Manchester City, for Spain, there's nobody better than him. And when you have a player of his caliber out, there are going to be problems and some solutions would need to be found. Thankfully, Manchester City has got Pep Guardiola, who is a master in solving problems. But before we get into it, we need to identify what the problems are. Well, the biggest problem is, of course, the control in the midfield. Rodri is a one-man engine who can run the entirety of midfield even if his primary job is just defensive. He is what makes the Man City machine tick. He screens the defense, intercepts passes, recovers the ball in the midfield either through tackling or winning second balls by being in the right positions, breaks up opposition counters, and keeps the ball and maintains possession under pressure. He's hard-working and covers a lot of ground, which is a hallmark of a typical Guardiola midfielder, a la Sergio Busquets. That doesn't mean he cannot be handy in attack. While he usually leaves progressive passing to his more attack-minded teammates like Kevin De Bruyne and Phil Foden, he himself is very much capable of breaking lines with incisive vertical passing behind the opposition defense. He's also more than handy with shooting, scoring goals when the team seems to need them the most. So now that we have sung praises of Rodri, you get why losing a player of his caliber for the entire season is such a monumental headache for Pep. Normally, a good defensive midfielder is expert in one or the other skill set. Very few in the world can do everything that Rodri does for City. So how is Pep trying to solve this problem? For now, he's given up some of his team's creativity and incisiveness to maintain control in the midfield. Through Guardiola's tenure at City, he has progressively demanded more and more control from his team, not letting the game open up or let the opposition run at them, because the way City play, they've always been susceptible to counterattacks, and it has been more and more evident this season. In absence of Rodri, City have deployed Gundogan, Kovacic, Rico Lewis and even Bernardo Silva at times to do just that in the middle of the park. Maintain control. The benefit is all these players can keep and move the ball well. The downside? They are not as good at recovering the ball when possession is lost, and that turnover can be devastating to City. This becomes doubly frustrating because oppositions have preferred to sit even deeper this season against Man City, with sometimes deploying 5 defenders in and around the box and even the defensive midfielders just ahead of them. And thus their biggest opportunity against City comes on the break. Due to trying to prevent this and maintain more control, someone like Phil Foden has seen his playing time reduced. It doesn't help that Kevin De Bruyne is injured too, so breaking down a low block is even tougher in absence of Kevin's exceptional vision. It's one of the reasons why you see City taking so many shots from outside the box. But despite Pep's methods, the dip in performance is pretty evident in all the post-Arsenal games so far. Wolves, Fulham and even the Southampton match, either City struggled to break them down or looked vulnerable on the counter. So some may ask the question, why don't they have a like-for-like replacement on the bench for Rodri? Why didn't City spend this summer bringing in a defensive mid who could cover for Rodri, knowing that he's been playing a lot and an injury like this could have always happened? Well, the answer is because it's not possible. A like-for-like replacement for Rodri is impossible. But even if you could find someone who's as good as Rodri, why would he sign for City? Just to sit on the bench and hope they get minutes? Now, could City have signed a defensive midfielder who could just do a job? Sure. City did sign Calvin Phillips a couple seasons ago, but we all know how that worked out. The solution for the time being has to come from within. For the years that we have seen Pep's Manchester City, Pep has always been able to come up with solutions to complicated problems. For years, his City team have played without a recognized left back. He was able to adapt to that with Fabian Delph and Alexander Zinchenko and whatnot. Or when he experimented with 4 centre-backs in defence in the treble-winning season when City were struggling at one point. Or pushing Rico Lewis or John Stones alongside Rodri for more stability in possession, better build-up play and better defensive cover. Injuries are part and parcel of the game, and this season is no different with De Bruyne, Grealish and just yesterday, Savinho are having to spend time in the infirmary. But Rodri, this may yet be his biggest test. Thank you for watching. Like if you liked it, share if you find it worthy, and subscribe for more content like this. This is Salty Football.